Hello, everyone, and good evening. Welcome to our last episode of the Digital Shelf series. You may have met me before, but my name is Maddie, and I'm from MadDIY Marketing. And you have joined the episode that is all about the customer journey. This episode is a part of the Digital Shelf series, a series created in collaboration with some amazing folks. You have Fund 17, Propeller, Recirculating Farms Coalition, and New Orleans Food Policy Advisory Committee, and of course, MadDIY Marketing. We created this series to bring food businesses together to discuss how we can all adjust and adapt to an even more digital shelf space, a digital space that COVID-19 has placed a lot of food businesses into. Before we get started, I want to mention a few housekeeping items. Please remember to keep your microphones on mute. This episode is being recorded, so I want you to be aware of that. And you will get a recording of this episode to the email that you registered with. I also want to mention that since this is the last episode of the Digital Shelf, we have been recording every single episode and they will all be available on YouTube very shortly. We will keep you in the loop on that and we'll send you an email. So I also want to mention that at the end of the episode, we will be having a Q&A session. So please hold your questions until the end and I will try to answer them at the end of the episode. I'm so happy you're here. I love to talk about data and I'm happy that you are here to talk about it with me. So let's get started. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Hi, Nicole. Thanks for being here. All right, no one's in the waiting room, and I will share my screen. Alrighty. So tonight, as mentioned, we are talking about marketing to match your customer's journey. I'm so happy to see some faces that have been here before, so welcome back. And I do want to just do a bit of a recap really quickly. Our last episode was also about analytics, overviewing some of the analytics that really help e-commerce stores do well. And we went through each category of Google Analytics and discussed what I thought and others thought to be areas of importance for tracking website engagement, customer engagement, noticing a lack thereof, conversions, etc. And by looking at your data or lack of data, it means that there's opportunity to do some testing or get to know your customers better. So today we'll be revisiting a lot of these data points, but applying the lens of the customer's journey to each. To give you a deeper understanding of how to read your customers' interactions on your website, in your store, and use them in your marketing strategy development, in your website building. If you're new, you don't have a store yet, all this information can be used for folks who are planning on building a store and also in your user experience, because these days, everything is about the experience. It needs to be memorable. So I'm sure the goal for your business of operating a digital store, opening up an e-commerce, is to drive people to that store, create returning customers, build in them into as retention, and then have them as a lifelong partner, as a customer. And someone who is going to advocate for you and your business on and offline. So, mentioning the customer journey, let's start with defining what it is. It's a shopping perspective, and it's the perspective of the customer from their point of view. It's a term that describes the stages that a customer goes through when they have a first interaction with your brand online, from the moment they learn about you to the point of purchase, when they receive your product, when they continue to engage with you, every moment throughout that journey. And there are different areas, that they go through that will help you understand maybe what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, where you're potentially missing out on some opportunities. So this is a definition. It doesn't actually mean that there's one customer journey. What it does mean is that you can look at this data, you can look at your store, your website, analytics, and build your own customer journey based on recommended data. So it will be unique to your store, to your business goals, and so forth. So I guess you could say tonight I'll be discussing the average customer's journey, and later on, towards the end of the episode, there's a recommended exercise that you can do to build a customer journey map based on a lot of data that we're going to talk about. I'm just going to double check that there's no waiting room. Okay. All right. So this customer journey, as we're here, is brought to life through the data we're about to walk through. We're storytelling. As mentioned last week, we can brush the surface today, but success is going to happen with you and your business when you create a habit of consistently going into your data and understanding what your customers are doing, their motivations, their pain points, their successes. And again, you learn all these things through your marketing strategies as well. So from the moment of discovery to the purchase, there's an experience in every single part. And your goal as a digital store is to make sure it's enjoyable for the customer so that they will return. This journey that we're about to talk about allows you to expand your relationship with your customer, to understand who they are in a deeper way, the motivations, the whys, the how they're finding you, where they're coming from, and what they're doing on your site. So you're here, first things first, you probably have customers. You're doing something right. You have available product, you have good customer service, you have very attractive content online, but you are providing a product that does answer a customer's need. And, when thinking about the customer's journey digitally, you can envision them standing in an actual retail store. That really helps, gauge the differences between the two journeys. There's no physical product here. So that's a huge opportunity where, you can build in your brand, create connection. We actually had an episode earlier in the series where Grow House Studio and myself, we talked about the branding toolkit. So feel free to check back into that once the series launches. Super valuable information there. And that will help you in developing, your digital persona, your digital brand, and engaging the customer on the digital shelf. So it's a huge bonus to you and your business, to manage this data because it opens up so many doors. So let's talk about each of these stages really quickly. I have awareness. I have two different terms here. I'm going to be focusing on the terms that come from the customer's perspective. So discovery, interest, intent, purchase, and engagement. Awareness, consideration, acquisition, retention, and advocacy is typically related to the buyer's journey, the buyer's life cycle. Very interchangeable, but since we're focusing on the customer's actions, I'm going to use those terms, but wanted to bring that to your attention that you'll probably see some of these others mentioned throughout the webinar. So the discovery is the first interaction that the customer has with your brand. It can be a result of the inbound traffic, which is typing into search engine and getting your business as a result, content marketing, organic social posts, or outbound marketing, which are your marketing activities like paid ads, affiliate partnerships, influencers, etc. And then from the discovery that moves into the interest. Interest is a customer is actively evaluating your brand and products, and they are looking for an answer to a problem, a need, a desire, etc. And customers in this interest stage and intent stage will undertake the research outside of this journey. So it's important to kind of think about that part. We'll talk about it in a little bit. And your competition will be evaluated. So it's also good for you as a business to be aware of your competition. And then from the interest, you move into the intent, which is where a customer is committed to making a purchase. There are certain actions that will indicate intent, and we'll talk about those. But the customer feels like that they have enough of an understanding of your business, of your product, that it solves their problem and you have an available solution, so they choose your business. And then from the intent, you go into the purchase, which is an obvious add to cart, complete checkout, and then into the advocacy and engagement. The advocacy and, the engagement is, when a customer comes back to your website because of certain strategies you have or certain communications, certain intrigue. It's just, a repeat. So I will be focusing a lot, the data that we'll discuss today is really going to be throughout, but in the early phases of discovery, interest, and intent, because if you can really tap into that data, it really strengthens your marketing strategies. So we're going to go into Google Analytics, our best friend, and we're using a demo account, and we're going to start in audience. So as mentioned before, and as you probably know, the audience tab gives you the overview of who your current audience is. It is an exact profile of who they are. You can distinguish your audience by, different areas of demographics. You have country, city. You can do their browsing system. Are they coming to you from mobile or desktop? But these are your current customers. Use these persona points to create, like targets for your marketing efforts, because these are who's here, these are who's coming, this is how much time they're spending on your site, and the audience category really does give you a deep dive into who your audience is. So use what's here. So you have this area, which is the who of your discovery phase. We're going to go into the how they find you. So to look at how your customers or users are finding you, we're going to go into the audience, and we're going to, the acquisition and the overview. You're seeing the most successful customer sources. I like to look at the pie graph because it's very visually appealing, and all the bright colors really helps indicate those different types of sources. So it's showing you how they're getting to your site. It's the first piece of the journey pie, if you will. So if you're looking at this and you're seeing a lot of organic traffic, that might be an indicator that you would want to invest in some SEO marketing or some content marketing. If you're seeing a lot of social traffic, investing in Facebook ads or Instagram, and that, can be a good indicator there. It's not necessarily bad to invest in, say you don't have a lot of referrals. What this is telling us is just use what's working. So that's kind of where those recommendations are coming from, because this is also all the sources where your customers are already coming from. So you can leverage this information to replicate and gain new customers. So we're going to head over to another area that's really helpful for getting to know your customers in the discovery phase. We are going to head to behavior. We're going to go to site content, which shows you all the pages on your website. So this section of analytics lists all of your URLs on your sites and enables you to see the behavior flow for any page on your website. So how to do that, you can choose either here or go up to underneath segment and choose navigation summary. Once this loads, you'll see this is a really powerful tool because it shows you the page that they entered on to the previous page and then to the next page. You know, again, this is going to need to be related to your website information, but you can choose and toggle between different pages just by using this drop-down screen. And it shows you where they visit. So it's giving you insight into that flow of page to page. And analyzing it, you know, it can help lead into the interest path, you know, the interest stage, which is next, because, you know, if a user goes to a subsequent page on your website following the home page, it shows you that there is an interest. It lets you know that this page is working and it's pushing the customer into another subsequent page. You can see how your customers navigate from page to page and which areas are most clicked and least clicked from this site. And from here, you can also develop ideas like about how to optimize the experience for your customer. It's all about optimizing the idea or optimizing the experience with creative ideas based on a need of your customer. So for instance, you know, you can utilize on-site engagements like pop-ups or surveys or, you know, those types of screen scroll pop-ups to gain feedback directly from your customers and to learn more about how they got to that part of your website. So while we're in behavior, we're going to check out behavior flow. And a lot of the data reports we're going to be looking at have a lot of flows to them. They're going to be from, you know, one touch point, one landing page, one part of your website, and then, you know, show you how that customer is going throughout your website. And since this is customer journey, that was kind of the hopes, was to show you these areas of analytics that can give you insight into these flows, to watch the journey, to be a part of it, and to learn. So we talked about the behavior flow report in our last episode, so we're going to revisit this. In terms of a data map relating to your customer journey, this report shows you how many people are on your website and how many people are using it, where they're coming from, and the page movement. And it shows you, which is the most powerful part, I think, that where they drop off by indicating with the red color. So recording some of these common paths found from this section of analytics and the behavior flow will really help you prioritize any changes to your website, see where there could be any interruptions, you know, and help you there. So a tip with this area is to make sure that the pages that people are coming to, so it's going to show you your most visited pages in this area. Make sure that these pages are delivering top-notch, high-quality content, you know, specifically for first-time visitors or, you know, potential customers. Always your unique value proposition, what makes you different than your competition. So using beautiful photos, compelling content, customer testimonials, you want to put this content where people will see it. So you can use this behavior flow to tell you where those opportunities are. So to explain this a little bit, because we didn't really deep dive into it at the last episode. This first column is landing page. It refers to where people are coming to your website. You can, you know, change this information as well to see, you know, traffic from specific sources or mediums. If you're using your UTM codes, specific campaigns that you recently launched, and so forth. So this, you can look at different paths and behavior flows from other areas. And then the second column is going to show you the starting pages. So this only shows you the top pages as well. So when you want to look at the more specific pages in your website, you're going to need to go to the site content, and it shows you the all pages. But so for here specifically, so each page is mentioned in green or shown in green. You have the red line right here, which shows drop-offs, and then the gray lines are like a train map, essentially. They're showing you the connections from start and the journey through your page taken by your your user. So you can also get even further by clicking on the specific page, and you can highlight traffic only from here. And it just shows a brighter, more bold, the journey that takes to and from. So this, is a great place to get into the habit of checking, especially if you're doing site updates. But this area is, it's good to monitor, but you don't need to spend like a bunch of time in here. It's just really good at getting a good understanding of the major pathways of your customer's physical journey. And something else that's really great is over here, you can add a segment, and you can change to specific traffic segments. So if you're wanting to look at the behavior flow of really any part, you can do new users, and then you can choose like sessions with transactions or made a purchase. So this can be really helpful for you when you're wanting to kind of compare the behavior flows of different segments of your traffic. So it's just important, as always, when looking at data, to notice any trends, notice commonalities between these segments. Like are people leaving on a similar page? What's the most, most common source? It really helps open up and learn from your customers by examining their actions, what you can be doing to create a stronger user experience, and to create a deeper flow into the customer journey to where they'll become, making a purchase and staying engaged in the advocacy and engagement area. This area also can show you if your campaigns are working. It helps you see the actions and strategies that are producing a sale. Your customer journey knowledge is always going to help you and encourage you to do and create a stronger customer experience. And it's all going to be based on actions and some of this data that is provided at specific touch points. It'll show you these parts of analytics will show you, motivations, where you can add triggers to keep people on site. But that being mentioned, the ability to track all of this, Google Analytics isn't going to be able to capture, all the discovery phase of how your customers are getting to you, because you have those word of mouths, you may have billboards, you may have a radio ad, you might do PR. So there are ways that you can capture direct customer feedback on your website, knowing, from this survey after the purchase, we learned that 20% of our customers are from word of mouth or a friend referral. So you can utilize other areas of the discovery on your website by these on-site pop-ups and such. So we've kind of went through the behaviors and areas that will help you get to know the discovery the discovery stage of the customer journey. So we're going to move into the next stage, which is the interest. So during this stage, as mentioned earlier, the customer has seen what you offer and they begin browsing your website. So one way that you can gauge interest is bounce rate. So we talked about bounce rate when we were discussing analytics for the e-commerce store, and bounce rates, again, just to remind you, they're the percentage of people who leave your site after one page view. They do not continue browsing. So if you have a high bounce rate, it typically means you have low interest from the people visiting your website. Look at what pages have a high bounce rate. Pay attention because your customers' interest and intrigue is what takes them to that next step, which is intent, which is purchase. So revisiting and looking at all pages on your website and kind of gauging the bounce rate will really help you in understanding where they're leaving, where first-time users are leaving. Visiting exit pages as well in the site content is another great place to gauge interest. You can ask yourself, like, why are people leaving from this page? Or did this page not meet the customer's goal? Where can I improve? And how can I push them through the journey more successfully? You're creating a natural progression by asking yourselves these questions. So in the interest stage, you can also go over into the conversions. Again, you'll need to set up some of these areas of analytics, like through Google Tag Manager and other helpful tools that they will walk you through, and getting your analytics set up with your website. So if you're new and you don't have any of this installed, it is a very, I won't say easy, but it's a very doable process for you, and highly encourage it. So we're here in conversions, and we're gonna go check out multi-channel funnels. And under the multi-channel funnels, we are gonna look at the top conversion paths. Alrighty. So here in the top conversion paths, when you visit this and you look at the data from your site, it's going to show you the top and the best performing channels where customers are acquiring information about you, and that these channels are piquing their interest and driving them to your website. And it's going to show you that path of acquisition by channels here. This is crazy valuable, especially when you're prioritizing spending your marketing budget, because you can see over on the right side of the screen that in this section, you can have a conversion value based on channels. So notice these channels, which ones are converting? What content are you using from that channel that's resonating with your customers? And what actions are being encouraged by this? And how are you shaping those actions? So you can gauge your customers' interest through even more analytics. There's a plethora of data, but we're gonna, continue to show you those other areas here for the interest. Again, hopefully you'll take this information and, go, if you don't already have your analytics up, you can use this information, to go and see what's happening and record as inspiration. So we're going to go to behavior, and we're going to do site search and overview. This is a specific part of analytics that is helpful for you as a business if you have a search bar on your website. Google Analytics used to provide keywords in some way, shape, or form to us, but they no longer do this. So as a store, this becomes super helpful for you because it gives you a peek into what people are searching for on your site. It gives you the key terms. It gives you, what they're putting into that bar. And it can give you insight into maybe products you haven't considered. If you're a granola company and you sell just loose granola and you notice that a high percentage, one of the biggest search returns is a granola bar, well, if your customers are searching for that, it might be a consideration. So again, this just shows you the area of, what people are typing in. You scroll down and the search terms would show up. So it's a gold mine. This is a gold mine area to peek into your audience interest, especially when you're wanting to specifically dive into website search. All right, so with all this data, hopefully you figure out, the best way that works for you to track it, because these areas of analytics are giving you this insight into the interests, how they're getting to your site, in every single aspect, you can create some sort of strategy, some sort of marketing content around, not only these search queries, but channels, and create a lookalike audience with your behavior. So continue to track, continue to notice trends and commonalities as you go through your data recording. Alrighty, so we talked about some of the areas of interest for the interest stage, and we're gonna go into the intent and the acquisition stage. So Again, the intent is a customer is committed to making a purchase, but they're not quite sure. They're not quite sure when they're going to make that purchase. But so we're going to head back over to the conversions area. Really helpful for e-commerce, and we are going to check out the checkout behavior. So we've talked about, we've discussed this in our last webinar as well. But this is the stage where the intent stage of the customer journey is where they're gonna either take an action to add a product to their cart, they're gonna add a product to their wish list, they're gonna move through the checkout journey, but the end result is not gonna be a sale just yet. So this is a stage where understanding, you know, the customer has done their research, they've looked at your competition, and, you know, there could be some considerations that you should take in terms of your competition. You know, if someone's falling off at the checkout stage, it could be a price issue or, you know, a shipping cost issue, but always pushing your unique value proposition, you know, what differentiates you from your competition will help you in communicating in these checkout stages effectively with your customers, because they want to make a purchase, they want to buy from you, and you can see by taking a look into the checkout behavior. So identifying which features are working to your advantage, you know, what's getting in the way, what is you know, why would people be adding something to their cart and not finishing the purchase? What's encouraging them to wish for a product? You know, these are questions you can ask yourself when, you know, you're looking at the customer's journey here. In the intent stage specifically, you can add, you know, new marketing. You can start testing based on channels, how people are entering your website. During this stage, you hopefully have been or are capturing emails of, you know, people who want to buy but haven't, you know, finished that purchase, and put them into, you know, a newsletter so that you can start talking to them, engaging them, and encouraging them to come back to your website to make that purchase. Because the end result with an e-commerce store is conversions, is sales. So we're gonna, you know, in better understanding that intent and, you know, where these customers are coming from, you can look at the different sources and mediums to help you get to know the motivations and how they're coming to your store, because the, you know, customers don't just show up magically or like materialize. There is a path that they take to find you. So you can add to the view and go to acquisition, and then you can go to all traffic, and you can check out the sources and the mediums. So customers are coming to your site from multiple platforms or channels before getting to you. So we looked at the channel flow earlier, and, you know, revisiting source and medium and channel flow, it really helps you better understand how you can optimize that experience from platform to platform. You can revisit your top conversion paths down there, and you know, to gather when and why customers are using different channels before buying. So, you know, looking at the behaviors and the conversions are super helpful. You know, the purchase stage is something that we all want the customers to get to. And so it's referred to as the conversion stage, the point to where the customer buys your product. So we were in the checkout earlier in the e-commerce. You know, we've talked about abandoned carts. We talked about customers, you know, if you have it as a part of your website, adding it to a wish list or saving it for later. You know, utilizing retargeting ads, automated emails at these points of the customer journey can help re-engage the customer. I think for the most part, abandoned cart emails are probably automatic at this time. You definitely want to, customize them and make them branded, but those are ways that you can re-engage, at this time of purchase. Also at checkout, it's really important, if you want to specifically re-emphasize as spoken to earlier, if there's a lot of people dropping off at checkout, re-emphasize your value proposition. Do you have free delivery? Do you donate a percentage of sales to a social or environmental organization? Is this a very popular item? Do you want the customer to know that it might sell out in a few days? But with getting this data directly, having someone click yes or save for later, you're getting it directly from the customer. You're getting that feedback. So with your emails, with your communications, with your purchases, always be looking for those feedback loops that you can get. So in your customer or in your purchase emails, including a survey or some sort of, tell us what you liked about the experience. Tell us what you didn't. You can encourage a review. You learn a lot. You learn a lot of valuable experience, I'm sure, from reading. I mean, as a consumer, 7 out of 10 of us are going to these testimonials or going to these customer reviews before we make a purchase. So as a business, those are super valuable for you to have on your website. So where are you putting those? And, it gives you a lot of emotional connection that the customer has to your product, psychological interactions or, feelings. To speak from a personal experience, I was recently contacted by a company, and I had left a review on a product, and they had asked me if they could share it on social media. And I said, of course. And to me as a consumer, that is super beneficial because my relationship to them is now further developing, and they took that action, to solidify me as one of their advocates. And believe me, I am. I do want to show an example that I did of the customer journey. We have these different areas, discovery, interest, intent, purchase, engagement. So, here I found a hot sauce company based in New Orleans. That's my discovery. My interest is that I noticed their peppers are grown in Louisiana, and that's intriguing. The intent, I'd love to try this, but I'm going to go research some competitors. I'm going to save it for later and see what else I can find. And then with the purchase, I can't get this description out of my head. I really love how, their emails that they sent me. So I'm going to go ahead and try it. And then further down the line, I wanted to know more about the farmers that they support. So that's just another journey and how you can, think about, the different stages and what a customer might be thinking about. And then we're going to get into the engagement and advocacy. We have a good amount of time. And again, this is the last stage of the customer journey, but I will make my screen bigger because I want to show kind of, I thought this infographic from Grow Code was really, really cool because it shows the different touch points that, one might go through. And again, you'll notice the awareness, consideration, purchase, retention, advocacy. Language is a little different, but this is the customer journey. So you see the different touch points that a customer may go through in each stage. So, this can help you in terms of communication, getting to know your customer, why are they visiting these areas and so forth along their journey. So thought that was really great because look at all those different areas, that customers have the opportunity to get to know you. It's super cool. All right, we're going to jump back into analytics for a few minutes, and we're going to talk about, we're going to go back to the audience, and we're going to talk about the revisiting, so the new versus returning users is what they are mentioned here. So this area helps you build, and look at if your campaigns are effective at getting customers to become advocates for your business. And here, I have a segment. You can create different segments as well, as we had talked about earlier, and you can always compare that data anywhere along Google Analytics. So here we have, new visitors, returning visitors that made a purchase, and that we talked about, new and returning visitors at our last meeting as well, but the returning visitors give you insight into what's working, so you can, track those trends over time. These visits are typically translating to conversions because they've already gone through those beginning stages of the journey, and they've come back to your site. So it's also important, to understand that this journey takes time. Customers don't just come overnight. And of course, there's always exceptions to the rule, but overall, most customers don't convert on the first visit. So pay attention to the percent of audience that's new versus returning. And you can use the cool area we talked about last time, the secondary dimensions, to further segment these customers. It helps in targeting your initiatives for repeat customers. The higher returning rate is more important because it gives you an insight into how customers, they're holding their interest with you. They agree with your price structure, and they're becoming loyal to your brand. All right, and again, just the secondary dimension just further segments, so you can, take a deeper, more granular look into different aspects of your traffic. And then in the understanding analytics for e-commerce, we've also talked about goals and setting up goals in analytics. That is something that you do have to manually set up, but it is worth doing this because it gives you a deeper insight, more granular lens look at the actions taking place on your website, and you can create your own flows and so forth by getting that set up. The same thing with campaigns. So we talked about campaigns in our last episode, and campaigns, you're only going to get so much information, right now from Google Analytics, but by utilizing UTMs, you can get a deeper view of how your campaigns are performing. And when you're doing your A/B testing, so in this stage of the advocacy and the engagement, something that's going to be really helpful is, you can do these A/B tests, which is comparing two different types of content, pushing a customer to a similar area, but measuring, clicks, opens based on subject and content within the email, or ad, whatever channel you're putting your tests on, but they help you track actions and goals. If you're launching a new product line, and you want to try out segmenting your most active customers, with this new product line, you're going to use A/B testing. But here in campaigns and the acquisition campaigns and all campaigns, you're going to be able to see, all the campaigns that you've set up and, track those. So as a reminder, with anything data, responses through analytics, through Google Analytics, they can be measured, they can be tracked. So, if you're running any kind of campaign, even just your normal newsletters, we used to use, when I was working for a company in California, we would use UTM codes all the time, especially for newsletters. So start getting into the habit of, using UTM codes. I did send that Google has a campaign URL builder that you can utilize when developing the UTMs. So this just tells Google more information about the links and the people who have come from them, where they're coming from, and so forth. And the cool thing also about these UTMs is that you can engage with them across all platforms. So they're not just one platform specific. Okay, I'm going to take a sip of water really quickly, and there's an exercise that is recommended for businesses to do, especially e-commerce, creating a customer journey map. So I'm just gonna show a few examples, some overviews. It is quite a detailed process, but just wanted to highlight some recommended formattings, and this is again going to give you a way more granular view into your customer's journey. You use the data that we just talked about and other things as well that we'll get into in just a second. Okay. All right. So we've gone through the discovery, interest, intent, purchase, and engagement. We've looked at, recommended data. Of course, again, we brush the surface. There's always more, but a great place to start is what we've talked about today. And so the exercise we went through, very valuable. Use this data in building your customer journey map. So this is kind of a simpler customer journey map. Each map will contain a lot of the same information like time frame and goals of the buyer and goals of you as the business, channels or touch points, and then paths that they're taking along throughout that stage. So the journey maps, these are high level overviews, that you need to target customers with specific content at specific touch points that are going to move them through your sales funnel. And mapping your customer journey, it leads to more conversions, to more revenue and long-term loyalty, because you're really pulling out every single aspect of this journey. And you're putting it here in a table. And it's an exercise that's recommended to do monthly, quarterly, often, a few times a year, so that you're continuing to provide that positive user experience for your customers. So this is we'll walk through the process kind of step by step. This is how you put yourself even further into the customer's shoes, and you chart all the experiences as possible. So the next example I have, I hope you can see it okay. It was quite big, so I tried to fit it on the screen, is a customer journey map from Grow Code. And they, have the different stages, and then they list, the goals, the customer actions, touch points and channels, customer thoughts, overall customer experience, pain points and opportunities to improve. So these are as detailed as you can possibly get. They're related to the goals and related to the actions or the desires, of the customer. What are you trying to get customers to do? Are you fulfilling, that need? Are you considering the concerns that your customers are experiencing? What are these touch points at each stage? And the touch points and channels, again, are just every single area that they're interacting with your brand, any way that they may interact with your brand. And those also does include, the referrals, words of mouth, your outbound and your inbound traffics, and so forth. So it's really, it can be very detailed, and going through each, you're able to drop, recognize pain points of your customers, gauge the overall customer experience. It's a good exercise to do with your whole company, your whole business. Bring in the customer service team, because everyone has their own engagement with the customer across, the whole business, sales, the founder. So bring in the whole team and gather any feedback that you may have missing at any, of the touch points. This is to help you in, where can you improve again, identify these areas and prioritize them. And what is the overall sentiment that your customers are feeling, and compare it to your competition as well. Always wanting to make sure that you're delivering your unique value proposition to your customer and communicating that to them effectively. So with these customer journey maps, take your time. Obviously, there's a lot of information that you can add. Here's that other example. Requires a lot of research. use your Google Analytics data that you can, and where you recognize those blind spots, you know, utilize the on-site surveys, utilize your customer service team, and fill in this table. You know, it will inform you of every single aspect of your customer's journey, and anything related to these stages. You know, again, the overall goal of it is to help you streamline and improve your customer's experience, and, you know, make sure that you're communicating to them effectively. So in the end, it's all the goal of increasing sales, making your store more successful, and, you know, having many advocates for your business, online and off. So when I follow up after this episode, there are a few, you know, bigger marketing companies that have free templates. I'll share a few of those with everybody if you're interested in taking a look at, you know, deep diving into this process. Especially going into 2021, this could be a really great opportunity, especially if you're a new e-commerce business, to really look at the data from 2020, you know, and then comparing it to 2021, you know, either quarter one or setting goals based on your e-commerce analytics. So yeah, I thought that this would be something that you guys would find beneficial. And again, it's something that can be done at any point in your business, as long as you have customers. All right, that coming to a close. If there are any questions, any comments, I open the floor. All right, since there are no questions, I just want to, oh yeah, thank you so much. Yes, lots of detail. Again, always check your analytics. You know, they're updating and creating beta. We talked about lifetime customers last episode. That's like, they're predicting how much you'll make from your customer based on sales. It's like, it's phenomenal, especially if you're going to be taking e-commerce to the next level. And so I hope this was helpful. And, you know, again, use this as kind of a point of entry, a point of discovery, and really let your data, your store's numbers take you on these journeys. You know, if it's new and it's your first time kind of getting into it, it can be overwhelming. I mean, it's still overwhelming, but just approach it with a grain of salt and kind of let what you find guide you. And always approach your data with questions and with a goal in mind. That is how you will most successfully read it. Might as well mention again that we really appreciate you joining us for this episode and for our digital shelf series. We will continue to create or to share these videos. They've all been recorded, so please look for for an email from us about that, and a survey to give us some feedback. So thank you, Caitlin. Really appreciate you being here, and Nicole, and Danielle. Thanks for closing out the digital shelf with me. Have a wonderful night.